This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Good evening and welcome to WAAY 31 Law Call. I'm Robert Lane, sitting in for Sharon Doviet. Well, tonight we're going to be talking about the law and the new year. How will the new laws affect you? Do you need to get in step with the old laws? What about a will? What about a divorce? Do you need to get your insurance ready for your car, for your house? Well, you give us a call. The number here is 256-536-0077. You can call or text that number, or you can email your questions. In fact, you can email those questions anytime during the week, and when we have a topic, we will. With me is Will League.
All right, Robert, thanks for coming up.
Of Timberlake, League, and Brooks.
That's right.
One of my favorite attorneys of all time. Listen, if you want a fighter, this is the guy for you.
Listen at him. I appreciate
you're like a bulldog, like a bulldog.
So we're talking a little bit, Robert, last couple of weeks we've talked about the CEO murder of Brian Thompson, and I've gotten a lot of feedback from that show. And the question we asked was, number one, he's an innocent man. He was not convicted. He wasn't convicted of capital murder, and he was executed by Mr. Luigi, whatever his name is. And the question that I posed to the callers that night were, number one, do you think it was justified? And number two, did you raise any questions about your own health insurance? You know, Robert, 2/3 of all bankruptcies in the United States are resulting from bankruptcy or medical bills. We pay twice as much for health care than any other, updated country. Triple the amount for pharmaceuticals, and again, 2/3 of bankruptcy related to medical debt. So, be brave. Give us a call. Let us know what you think about the murder of CEO Brian Thompson and whether or not that raises questions for you with your own health insurance. It's a question that it affects all of us. We're all going to have health issues. Taxes and death, Robert. We're going to have that. And so we'll talk about that. And if you have any question going into the new year, whether it be insurance, car wrecks, divorce, we'll see if we can answer your question tonight. But those are topics that have come up in the news that we feel affects every American, every citizen, and healthcare is central to all of us, And we had a great question come in about Medicare and the difference between Medicare and Medicaid. And I hope you have a job and you got great Blue Cross Blue Shield. But they've got a monopoly in the state, by the way. And I hope you have great insurance. But let's say you get divorced and your husband or wife had the insurance and now you're out on your own and you're looking at COBRA, or your advanced age where Medicare comes in. Because back in the day, before Medicare, everyone's going broke trying to pay for the end of their life medical care. And thank goodness Medicare came along, and some of those important legislative decisions in the last 20 years is Obamacare, universal health care, some of the most important legislation to help those. Because again, if there's an uninsured person that goes to the hospital, guess who pays? We all pay. We all go in and pay those. Now, the hospitals, the doctors, they do their best to treat everyone, especially if they're receiving federal funding. And everyone's getting care, but it's not free. And so a system that is designed to help all is maybe what's needed. And this tragic murder brought a lot of these issues to the forefront, Robert, about the denials of health care. What we usually deal with in my line of work is workers' compensation. Even though you've got great health insurance, you can be denied. Let's say you hurt yourself on the show tonight. You need shoulder surgery. Well, let's say the workers' comp insurance comes in and says, you know what, Robert, instead of shoulder surgery, why don't you go to therapy for 9 weeks and hurt yourself and suffer? That's something we deal with, quite often in the denials. Also, let's say you're in a motor vehicle wreck, you need surgery, you don't have health insurance. The doctors and hospitals can't just front that unless it's an emergency situation. And so you need health insurance to have access to life-sustaining, life-enjoyment treatment that you're not getting. And so it's an important topic to all of us that needs to be addressed not only by our state legislature, by the federal legislature, to let's get health care for everyone and how can we make it affordable. It's not as easy as it sounds, but to have such a developed country, the United States, and be 72nd rank in the world for health care benefits, it's insanity. It sure is.
Listen, you deal with truck accidents.
We do.
We have a little video, and you make the law call. This is our last one of the year. So take a look at this video, Will, and tell me if you represent the people. Oh!
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. It looks like, so they're there. It looks like they've had a wreck already, or they pulled over side of the road. They're there. All of a sudden, this truck, 18-wheeler, looks like an 18-wheeler, loses traction. Now, the question I've got is obviously wet. How fast is the 18-wheeler going? Is it 30 degrees? Is it all ice? Is it 50 degrees? Is it just wet? But again, under the DOT regulations, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations, you have to operate your 18-wheeler at a safe speed for those conditions. So if he's coming down there 70 in a 55-mile-an-hour zone, you know, he's clearly lost control of his truck. Hopefully those guys got out of there. But the 18-wheeler insurance is responsible for any damage he or she caused, any personal injury he or she caused, and that includes, let's say the guy had been up for 5 days. You know, Robert, a lot of cases we look at are, you're supposed to have a 10-hour reset. Are you an over-the-road driver? What are you know, a fatigued driver is a dangerous driver, and there's studies out there that show that if you have X amount of nights of inadequate sleep, it's akin to driving drunk in terms of reaction times, accidents, all those things. So a lot of times in the 18-wheeler wrecks that we work on is we find that there's a sleep deficit for that particular driver. And if you're out there, if you've driven on a poor night's sleep or several poor nights' sleep, you know what I'm talking about. And when you're handling 20, 30, 40,000 pounds worth of equipment and it gets out of control, people get killed and people get hurt. And that's why those DOT regulations are there for everybody using the road. And so that particular driver obviously failed to maintain control of his vehicle. For what reason, I do not know, but that's why we go in, and in the lawsuit, we'll file discovery. We'll try and find out what's the sleep patterns. Did that driver get medical care? Sometimes they're on amphetamines. Sometimes they're on other types of altering drugs that keep them from being able to drive a motor vehicle safely. And so all those things, Robert, need to be looked at to find out what was the cause of that particular wreck.
And there's a black box in that truck, probably.
There is. Oftentimes we'll hire a reconstructionist. They'll go out, obtain the information from the black box, let us know speed, let us know when did he brake, how fast was he going during the braking, what mechanisms were enacted and when, and we can know from the good weather folks of what the weather was like, what the conditions were, and then the black box tells us a lot. Oftentimes we have video in the cab. We've had video of truck drivers watching TV, playing on their phone, playing video games while driving. We've had them fall asleep. So we've seen all kinds of things that sadly cause and contribute to these horrific wrecks.
We're going to go to Hazel Green right now. Mary's been standing by. We appreciate your patience, Mary. What's on your mind tonight?
Yes, sir. My question is, my husband has Medicaid, Medicare. He is 64 years old, and I mean he will get he's on disability, but next year he'll be 65, so it changes over. But I was told that I could get off of his check when I turn 62, which I just turned 60. I'm so proud of that.
Very happy birthday.
Also, I think it'd be best if I wait till I'm 65. But somebody said that I could also get insurance from off of his Medicaid, Medicare, and I don't think that's true. I go to the free clinic, God bless those people,
right,
in Huntsville, Alabama, and that's where I've been going there for years, God bless them, and that's where I go. So I don't think that this is true, that I could get any kind of his insurance, because I just don't think that's true.
Now, so when did he become disabled?
Pardon me?
When was he adjudged to be disabled? How long ago was it?
About 6, 7 years ago.
Okay, and so he started getting Medicaid at that time? Is that correct?
Medicaid and Medicare.
Okay, because typically you don't get Medicare until you're 65, but a disability may be an exception to that. So your question is, can you be on his insurance as well? Is that correct? And first off, folks at the Free Clinic do a great job. It's such a wonderful service for everyone out there, just like this particular caller who does not have insurance and needs health care. We all will need it at some point. Your question is, can you get on? I don't believe you'll be able to, based on his specific condition if he was deemed disabled. For example, let's say he worked all those years, and whoever he's working for, because the American system is you get medical care through your employment, and it's on the employers to provide that. And that cost is rising. Now, if you have a spouse and they put you, and you're put on them through your work insurance plan, that costs the employer and the employee more to have you on there, but it is a right, it is a benefit that you could choose to avail yourself of. Now, once he's deemed disabled, Medicare, Medicaid comes in and provides that insurance. Can you get on there? Will be determined by the particular plan that he is on. I would certainly investigate it to see if you could be on that plan as well, because obviously having coverage as opposed to not having any is much better. And I understand you're going to the free clinic, and that will provide you some care, but what if you need some type of surgery? Or what if you need life-saving, you know, you have a stroke and need rehabilitation care, all those things. And we talked about medical bills bankrupt most Americans. 2/3 of bankruptcy are directly related to medical bills in America. And unless you can get on his health care plan, you may be one that needs health care. You have these $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 bills coming in and can't pay it, have to declare bankruptcy. So it's a good question. It'll depend on the plan that he is particularly on. So I would certainly investigate that, get those documents, and go talk to whoever the plan administrator is and see if you can get on his plan. And you know, if you can do that before age 65, it'd be even better.
You really just need to investigate this stuff. I mean, each situation is different. They're very complex.
It is. And you got so many different issues at hand. You know, again, Blue Cross Blue Shield insures 90% of the lives in Alabama. They got a monopoly. United Healthcare's got a small foothold. They've made the news, sadly, for all the denials. And, you know, and I get it. The companies, this is a system we've set up, Robert. The system is that they are corporations and they have a legal obligation to the shareholders. And what does that mean? That means bringing in premiums, paying out dividends to shareholders, and keeping claims low. That's the game that the legislature in the United States is allowing them to play, and that's the game they're playing. Until we get the legislature to enact stronger universal health care, CEOs like Brian Thompson, they have a duty to their shareholders, and if they're operating under the law, they have to provide their shareholders a duty of financial responsibility to pay those dividends. And so America's up in arms about the denials, but they're not up in arms about the nature of the game. And so, you know, Robert, they say, don't hate the player, hate the game. You know, in this case, this poor man, he had a wife and children, and he's operating under the laws of the United States. He's in this game of health care. The game is he's got to pay his shareholders. If you don't like that, let's change the game and enact some type of universal health care to try and cover these people and try and reduce the amount of denials. 72, ranked 72, United States ranked 72, and our you know, West Virginia and Mississippi, their life expectancy is lower than Mexico. And so when you look into these numbers, it's sad.
We're going to take a break. Howie, I know you've been hanging in there. Hang in there. I'll get to your call. We'll be back in just a minute.
You're watching WAAY 31 Law Call. Your rights, your calls, live. Presented by the Tennessee Valley's award-winning personal injury and wrongful death law firm, Timberlake, League & Brooks. Featuring the knowledge and experience of attorney Michael Timberlake, attorney Will League, attorney Heath Brooks, attorney William Maservi. And hosted by broadcaster and family law attorney Sharon Doviet. This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
I want to tell you about a little thing that Timberlake League & Brooks provides for the Broadway Theater League. If you are going to Clue this coming weekend, they provide wheelchair service, so you can get from getting dropped off to getting to your seat, and then when the show's over, they'll pick you up absolutely and take you back to your car. It is absolutely free of charge, and we are very appreciative of you all sponsoring that and have for a number of years.
So let them enjoy the shows as well.
It is. Right. Thank you so very much. Okay, we have, let's see here, Sarah from Alabama. You've been holding. I appreciate it. What's on your mind?
Thank you. I just wanted to know, I currently have Medicare. Should I be qualified to also have Medicaid? Is it something that's automatic, or do I need to do something?
How old are you?
In my 50s.
Okay. Typically, traditionally Medicaid is for the disabled and impoverished if you don't have, depending on what your assets are or what you make per year. So Medicaid is usually set aside for those types of folks. So just because you have Medicare does not mean that you have Medicaid automatically. And so again, think Medicare when you're 65 or older, usually that's when that starts. And then Medicaid, think if you have a disability or you have a limited amount of assets that you can access to access medical care. So no, you shouldn't automatically receive Medicaid just because you're receiving Medicare.
Howie, you have been incredibly patient. We are so glad that you called us. Talk to us. You're on the air.
Hi, I've got a question I'd like to ask without giving anyone any ideas, but we've got this new law that's been passed for New Year on squatters and anti-squatter rules, and I'm calling because I have a house that I've owned for a few years that I've got recorded deed, but it's out in the county, and I was just evicted someone a couple of weeks ago, and I don't go out there on a regular basis. And if someone moves in without my knowing it, and let's say they just get a deed from someone who isn't an owner and just record it or just have a deed, and I go out there with the police with my deed, or the sheriff, will they be removed from the property according to that new law, or do I still have to go to court to get them out of there?
Well, you'll probably, since it's a new action, so under your scenario, and what do you know about the new law? Tell me a little briefly about that.
Well, from what I understand, of what I've seen on your show, is that if someone's squatting, you don't have to evict them, that you can go with the particular law officer and they'll have them removed from the property immediately, saying that squatting is illegal.
Right. Well, number one, it is illegal. But number two, in order to get a writ of execution, and that's having them physically moving off the property, the sheriff, the police officer, they have to have the right to do that. And usually it's with a court order, okay? So yeah, there's landlord-tenant laws. They've come around. There's some new laws in the last, 5-10 years, given, a little more balanced playing field. But again, we get a writ of execution, you will have to evict those folks, all right? So if they were to go in and squat, and then I think you said recorded deed, what you're talking about is what's called adverse possession. So, example, you and I share a fence line, and you come over on my side and build a sidewalk and use it, and you're open and obvious and using that in front, for 20 years. There's an argument that says now that's your property because you use that open and obvious in conjunction with me knowing about it. I had knowledge of it. In this case, you did not have knowledge that they're squatting on your property, and so the law would still protect you. Adverse possession would not apply, but I believe you'd have to get a writ of execution to give the sheriff the power to physically remove them from the property. And the downside is they trash the property. You got to pay to have it. You could make a claim against them, but would they have the money to satisfy that judgment? And so usually not. If they, oftentimes if they were squatting, anyway, you get it. You get it. So be vigilant, maybe get video cameras, but if you're gonna go out there with the sheriff has to have power to do something, and that comes from the writ of execution from the judge. Now, some jurisdictions may follow the law and say, hey, here's my deed, they're on there. You may wanna call the officers for trespass, so that might be something to get you there. But all those things would depend on the particular officer, depend on the policy procedure of that particular department, but you need either a court order or the officers following the law based on a complaint of trespass.
All right, 2 quick questions.
Yep.
Okay, one is, can you shoot down a drone in this state?
Ooh, man, I know people want to. So you get your bundles of rights, you got mineral rights, you got this, and you have air rights up until a certain height. Don't know what that is, but let's say you got a drone above your property. Oh, man, I'm going to say no, you can't. But let's say it's low.
Can I look in your bedroom?
No.
Oh.
No, you can't. I think you can, if it's within your, you're not hurting anybody, but if it's within your property, if it's below X amount of feet, shoot it down and call me, and well, I'll defend you. But again, if you hurt somebody else, but you can't fire, you can't fire firearms in the city limits. So that's something that gets in trouble. But again, somebody asked that the other day on Facebook, and if it's FAA's got jurisdiction above a certain height above your property. But again, be careful shooting them down. I mean, in Jersey's wanting to shoot them down.
But thank God we're far from New Jersey.
That's right.
There is a bill that's going to go in the legislature. It's against porch pirates this year.
Right.
They're going to make it a felony, and you can get 20 years. You think that's excessive?
Okay, so we're talking about property crime. They're not hurting anybody, but the people have spoken. They're outraged. It's all over the news. You're just trying to get your folks some Christmas presents, and somebody's coming and stealing from you. Illegal, uncool, all of it. Is it a felony? That's for the legislature to decide. But again, now you've got Class A, B, C, and D felonies.
That's right.
But up to 20 years in prison, the legislature's hearing the people and reacting, and that's a good thing. Let's do that with health care as well.
Well, right now it's on the value of what they steal.
Okay.
So if it's $500, then, it's, like nothing.
But
and
what
blah,
if you've
blah,
got
blah,
a kid acting stupid, he goes and does that, and it's some necklace worth X amount? Is 20 years, is that the right thing? I know it makes us mad when they do it. Me too. I'm outraged when we see it on TV. But we're putting people in jail for 20 years for property crime? That sounds excessive.
I'll give you this statistic. Almost half the people in Alabama have had something taken off their porch.
Man, people are getting angry about it, aren't they?
Man, they are.
They are. I don't blame them. I don't blame them.
Get a drone to watch your porch.
Right. Don't shoot it down, though. Don't shoot it down, though. That's a great example of the people being outraged about something and the legislature enacting laws, to help that scenario. In the murder of CEO Brian Thompson with United Healthcare, the man's doing his job. I get it. There's denials. People are frustrated. But the support for an illegal murder is unsettling. I get it. It's denials. And it affects people's livelihood. It affects their health. And people are dying. It's a very, very serious topic. Write your legislature. Write your congressman. Try and get it out there. And let's do the same with porch pirates. Let's make a positive difference.
We got to take a break. We will be right back. Stay with us. If you want to get in touch with Will League at Timberlake League and Brooks here in Huntsville, the number is 256-536-0770. Never costs you anything out of your pocket to talk to him. Just give him a call or see him online at law-injury.com.
And our very own Sharon Doviet, 539-7337, child custody, divorce, SharonFamilyLaw.com.
And I want to remind you, these guys will be on the 31 midday show on Monday.
That's right.
So
that's right. Take your questions, and we'll see if we can do it again.
All right. Well, listen, thank you very much for joining us. Sharon Doviet will be back next week. I hope
we'll miss you. Thank you for coming up, Robert. Thank you so much.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.